Everyone feared Isabella Moretti. The woman could shatter a room's confidence with a single glance. But when the new maid stopped her mid-slap, catching her wrist like it was nothing, every guest realized the same chilling truth. The wrong woman had just been humiliated, and the right one had finally struck back. Thank you for sticking around with me, and welcome back, my wonderful story family. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now back to the story. Chicago winters always had teeth, the kind that bit through even the thickest coats. But inside the Moretti mansion, the air was warm, fragrant, and full of tension, like a snow globe about to be shaken by the wrong hands. The new maid, Elena, stepped quietly through the hallway, the polished floor reflecting the clean lines of her black vest and white shirt. She never rushed. She never stumbled. She never failed. Even the other house staff whispered about her. How she moved like someone who'd seen far worse than spilled wine and bad tempers. But today wasn't a normal day. Today was Isabella Moretti's day. The Christmas gala. Inside the grand ballroom, chandeliers poured gold light over tables dressed sharp enough to cut. Guests arrived in waves of perfume and designer suits. Men laughed too loudly. Women exchanged backhanded compliments with smiles sharp enough to draw blood. And at the center of it all sat Isabella. Her white dress glowed like ice under the lights. Her posture was regal, jaw tight, and eyes cold. She was beautiful the way a tornado is beautiful. Stunning, powerful, and capable of ripping everything apart. Dante Moretti, her husband, sat beside her, quieter, observant, a man whose silence held more threat than her screaming ever could. People respected Dante. They survived Isabella. And she loved that. Elena carried a tray through the tables, her eyes taking in everything. Who was whispering, who was watching, and who was pretending not to. Her movements were smooth and efficient. Almost too efficient. Isabella noticed. She always noticed. There was something about the maid that she couldn't stand. The calm. The silence. The refusal to shrink the way others did around her. Isabella needed fear the way others needed oxygen. It fueled her. And Elena denied her that. When Elena approached with a bottle of Cabernet, Isabella's voice sliced through the music. "Careful," she said loudly, making sure the nearest guests heard. "Try not to embarrass yourself. Or us." Elena simply nodded and poured, steady as a surgeon. Isabella's teeth clicked together. The room tilted toward her, sensing the coming storm. Then, with a dramatic gasp that was absolutely rehearsed, Isabella tipped her own glass over. Red wine splashed across the ivory carpet like a murder scene. Guests froze. Dante's brow lowered. A woman near the back whispered, "Oh no." Isabella pointed at Elena with a trembling finger full of venom. "You clumsy little rat. Look what you've done." Gasps rippled. Elena didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't shrink. She simply straightened up. That made Isabella stand. She wanted an audience. She always wanted an audience. "Clean it," Isabella hissed, the words dripping with triumph. "With your tongue." A few guests swallowed their horror. Others laughed under their breath, hungry for drama. One man covered his mouth, as if unsure whether to object or enjoy the show. Elena set the bottle aside. Slowly she approached Isabella, who smirked, lifting her hand. Everyone thought she was going to slap Elena. Everyone thought Elena would let her. Everyone was wrong. As Isabella's hand arced forward, Elena caught her wrist with 2 fingers. Clean, precise, and effortless. The impact was immediate. Isabella's eyes widened. The room inhaled sharply. A man at a nearby table whispered, "Holy." Elena leaned in just enough for Isabella to hear the cool, steady words. "You're slouching. It makes you look desperate." A ripple of shocked laughter fluttered across the crowd. The kind people tried desperately to hide but couldn't. Isabella panicked, yanking her arm, but Elena didn't budge. Instead, she twisted, gently enough not to break anything, firmly enough to drop Isabella to her knees in front of half the city's underworld royalty. The Ice Queen is kneeling. The maid stood tall. People choked. Literally choked. A man slapped his friend's shoulder in disbelief. Someone whispered, "Is Dante going to kill her for this?" Elena released Isabella only when Dante rose to his feet. Even Elena didn't know what he'd do. Dante Moretti wasn't a man you disrespected publicly. His silence alone could fold nations. He stepped toward the two women. Elena watched his hands. Isabella watched his face. The crowd watched history. Then Dante lifted his glass. "Welcome home," he said. "Sister." Everything went silent, before exploding into chaos. Elena's eyes flicked up with calm recognition. And everyone else stared, realizing the maid wasn't just brave. She belonged to the blood no one dared cross. She was a Moretti. But she had been gone for years. And she hadn't returned to serve. She'd returned to a Pruda kingdom. Elena slipped her hand beneath her apron and pulled out a concealed Glock. Lightweight, matte black, a weapon that belonged to someone trained. "I'm done watching this place rot," she said quietly. "Let's begin." Gasps turned to shrieks. Enough adrenaline surged through the room to heat the snow outside. And in that moment, every single guest understood. The wrong woman had been ruling the Moretti estate. And the right one, finally, was reclaiming it. In the crowd, someone muttered, "This is why I can't stand people like Isabella. Fake, cruel, and power-hungry." It was the perfect moment for a question to slip into Elena's simmering thoughts. She wondered what the room truly believed. Who they sided with. Whose justice did they want? If the guests watching could hear that thought, they would feel the same push the viewers would feel. Because anyone who doesn't stand against arrogance and humiliation is standing with Isabella. And nobody wants that. If you're reading this and you can't stand arrogant people like Isabella who think they can treat others like trash, comment "Everyone deserves respect" right now. Only cowards who secretly agree with her won't. The Moretti estate didn't sleep. Not really. Even at night, when the chandeliers dimmed and the staff's footsteps softened, the house breathed with the hum of security systems, the quiet shift of guards rotating positions, and the low thrum of power that came from being owned by a man like Dante Moretti. Elena moved through the hallway with the laundry basket pressed to her hip, trying to focus on the simple rhythm of her tasks. It kept her calm. It kept her invisible. It kept her safe. Or so she thought. She had almost reached the guest wing when she heard voices. Low, urgent, and angry. A man's growl, another's nervous stuttering. She froze in place, heart hammering. "I told you the boss can't find out." "He won't," the other snapped back. "Just clean it up before anyone sees." Elena inched closer before catching herself. Curiosity killed more than cats in this house. She turned away, too late. The door to the side room yanked open. A guard stepped out. Broad shoulders. Dark eyes. A scowl that looked carved from stone. And he saw her. Elena's breath caught. The basket nearly slipped from her hands. He looked her up and down as if assessing a threat. Or a witness. "What did you hear?" he demanded. "And nothing. I was just doing laundry." The other guard appeared behind him, wiping something dark from his knuckles. Something that made her stomach tighten. Blood. It was small, a smear really, but enough to make her voice dry up. "Should we bring her inside?" the second guard asked. His tone was too casual. Too dangerous. "No," the first one said after a long, tense pause. "Dante will decide what to do with her." Her chest tightened. Dante. No. Not again. Not another unexpected encounter that would put her under that man's gaze. But the guard had already stepped toward her. "You're coming with us." I didn't see anything." "Good. Then you have nothing to worry about," he said, though his tone suggested the opposite. They ushered her down the hall, not roughly but firmly enough that she had no choice. With each step, the house felt colder. Smaller. Like walls were closing around her. By the time they reached the main study, the room no maid was ever allowed to enter, Elena's nerves were trembling so hard she thought she might collapse. A guard knocked twice. "Boss, we have a situation." A low voice inside replied, steady as a pulse line. Enter. The door opened. There he was. Dante Moretti stood behind his desk, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, the dim light carving sharp lines along his jaw. He hadn't expected company, least of all her. His gaze lifted, locking onto hers with a force that nearly stole her breath. "Elena," he said slowly, "why are my men bringing you to me?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The guards exchanged a look. "She overheard something," the first one said. "Something we were handling." Dante's expression didn't change, but the air grew heavier, darker. "What?" he asked softly. "Did you hear?" Elena swallowed hard. "Nothing. I swear. I was just walking by." Silence. A long, measured silence where Dante studied her like a puzzle piece that suddenly didn't fit. Then he stepped around the desk and approached her. Slow, calm, but with a presence that made her pulse race. When he finally stood in front of her, he lowered his voice. "Elena," he said, "look at me." She did. And everything inside her trembled. "Did my men frighten you?" "Yes," she whispered before she could stop herself. His jaw tightened. "Leave us," he ordered. The guards left. The door shut. Now it was just the two of them. Dante exhaled slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Tell me everything," he said. "I'll know if you lie." Her throat went dry, because she suddenly realized something terrifying. He wasn't angry. He was worried. About her. Elena had never seen Dante Moretti look uncertain. Not when he faced his men. Not when he gave orders that rippled through the entire estate. Not even when Sophia, his daughter, had run crying into his arms after a nightmare. But now, as he stood in front of her with that unreadable expression, uncertainty flickered behind his eyes. "Elena," he said again, slower this time, as if choosing each word with care. "What exactly did you hear?" She clasped her hands together to hide the trembling. "I don't know," she said. "I only heard raised voices. I didn't understand what it was about." "Did you hear names?" "No." "Did you hear threats?" "No." "Did you see anything?" Her breath hitched. She thought of the smear on the guard's knuckles. Dark, unmistakable. Dante noticed the shift in her expression. "Elena." His voice deepened. "Tell me." She opened her mouth. "I saw a little blood. That's all." Silence stretched, thick and heavy. Dante turned his head slightly, jaw tightening. When he looked back at her, something cold and furious ghosted behind his eyes, but not at her. "My men were careless," he muttered. "Careless around you." He raked a hand through his hair in a rare display of frustration before stepping closer. "Listen to me." His tone softened, dangerously soft, like velvet covering steel. "In this house, knowledge can protect you. But it can also put you in danger." She swallowed. Am I in danger?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied her, really studied her. The way her fingers curled around her elbows. The way she tried to stand straight, even though fear made her knees tremble. The way her eyes refused to leave his, not out of defiance, but out of trust, she didn't even realize she was giving him. Finally, he spoke. "You're not in danger from me." It was not a promise. It was a vow. "But," he continued, "my men brought you here because they believe you overheard something involving one of our ongoing issues." Her voice wavered. "Issues? Someone has been trespassing on my territory." His tone darkened, every syllable edged like a blade. "Someone bold enough to send a warning. My men were dealing with evidence." Elena's pulse kicked. A warning. Blood. Raised voices. It fit too well. Dante stepped even closer. Close enough that she had to tilt her head up. "Elena, you need to tell me truthfully. Did you hear anything else? Anything at all?" "No," she whispered. "I swear." His breath left him in a slow, controlled exhale. Not relief. Something heavier. "Good," he murmured. Then, to her surprise, and his, the back of his fingers brushed lightly against her forearm. A quiet, grounding gesture. A protective one. She stiffened, but not out of fear. "You don't belong in the middle of this," he said, almost to himself. "You shouldn't even be in this house alone at night. I was just doing my job." "I know." And something in the way he said it carried weight, as he admired that about her. He stepped back only when he heard a knock at the door. "Boss." It was Matteo's voice. Older guard. Loyal. Dangerous. "We handled the rest." Dante's expression hardened instantly. "Good," he replied. "And the intruder?" "Gone. Left another message." Elena's breath caught, but Matteo continued as if she weren't there. "We think they're getting closer." Dante's jaw clenched, then tightened security around the house. And around Sophia. His gaze flicked briefly to Elena. And her. Elena blinked. "Me." Matteo raised an eyebrow, but Dante didn't explain. He only said, "You can go back to your work now. But from tonight onward, you don't walk alone in this house after dark." Her pulse fluttered. "Why?" "Because someone out there," he said with chilling calm, "is sending warnings." He paused. "And I intend to make sure none of them reach you." Elena tried to return to her duties, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The kitchen lights felt too bright, the silence too loud. Every clatter of a glass made her jump. She kept replaying the last 10 minutes over and over. The blood, Dante's voice, the way he looked at her like she was something he needed to protect. Why me? She wasn't important. She wasn't part of their world. She swallowed hard and forced herself to wipe down the counter. Routine. Normalcy. Something to hold on to. Elena. She startled so hard the cloth flew out of her hand. It was Sophia, Dante's daughter, standing barefoot in her unicorn pajamas, her curls messy, her eyes wide with sleepy confusion. "Sophia, sweetie." Elena managed a shaky smile. "You scared me." "What's going on?" the little girl whispered. "I heard yelling." Elena knelt in front of her. "Nothing you need to worry about. Grown-ups were just being loud." Sophia frowned, then wrapped her arms around Elena's neck, a spontaneous tight hug. Elena froze, then slowly hugged her back. "I'm glad you're here," the little girl whispered. "When the house gets scary, you make it feel normal." Normal. Elena swallowed a lump in her throat. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. A voice cut through the hallway. "Sophia." Dante stood there, his frame filling the doorway, half in shadow. His expression softened at the sight of his daughter, but his eyes flicked to Elena, assessing, lingering, unreadable. "Come here, princess," he said gently. Sophia ran to him. He picked her up effortlessly, but his gaze never left Elena. "I should get her back to bed." His voice was low and controlled. "Are you all right?" No one had asked her that. "Not really." Her throat tightened. "Yes," she lied. "Of course." Something in his jaw worked, like he knew she was lying but wasn't sure how to push without frightening her more. Sophia tugged at his collar. "Daddy." "Yes." "Can Elena tuck me in?" Both adults froze. Dante inhaled once, slowly. The faintest flicker of conflict crossed his face, duty warring with instinct. Finally, he nodded. "All right." Sophia cheered softly and extended her arms toward Elena. Dante passed her over with a careful slowness, as if the girl were crystal. Elena felt the warmth of his hands brush hers. It was barely a touch, but it sent a startled jolt through her chest. "Down the hall," he murmured. "Second door." The walk to Sophia's room felt surreal. The little girl talked about her drawing, her new toys, and a dream she had, completely oblivious to the tension weighing down the house. Elena tucked her into bed, smoothing the blankets. Sophia smiled sleepily. "Elena." "Yes." "Daddy likes you." Elena blinked. "Sophia." "It's true. He gets quiet when he looks at you. He only does that with people he cares about." Elena opened her mouth to respond, but Sophia had already turned over, drifting into sleep. Heart pounding, she stepped out of the room, and nearly collided with Dante. He was waiting in the hallway. His tie loosened. His sleeves were rolled up. His expression was unreadable. "Elena," he said quietly, "come with me." Her breath caught. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," his tone softened. "But I need to show you something." She followed him through the dim hallway toward his private office. Her pulse hammered faster with every step. At the door, he paused and turned to her. "What I'm about to tell you stays between us." "Understood." She nodded. He opened the door. Inside, on the desk, was a single envelope with her name on it. Elena stiffened. "I found it tucked through the front gate," Dante said. "Minutes ago." Her throat went dry. "Open it," he said. With trembling fingers, she lifted the flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper. And on it, a photograph of her walking home from work last Tuesday night. Her blood turned to ice. Dante's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Whoever is sending messages has taken an interest in you." Elena's knees nearly buckled. He stepped closer, his presence steadying her even without touching. "I told you," he murmured. "You don't walk this house alone at night." His eyes burned into hers. "Because someone out there is watching you." Elena couldn't tear her eyes away from the photograph. Her own face stared back at her, unsuspecting, tired from a late shift, her grocery bag in hand, her headphones in. She hadn't even noticed anyone near her that night. Her hands began to shake. This can't be real," she whispered. "It's real." Dante's voice was calm, but the fury beneath it was unmistakable. "And it means someone has been watching you for longer than I thought." "Watching me?" Elena's voice trembled. "Why me? I'm nobody." Dante stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, like approaching a frightened animal he didn't want to startle. "You work in my house," he said. "That alone makes you a target." Her breath stuttered. "But this," she gestured to the photo, panic rising. "This was before I even started working here. Before I even applied." The words hit him like a physical blow. His eyes narrowed. His head tilted slightly. And then his expression changed, darkened, as a puzzle piece slid into place. "Elena," he said quietly, "when did your old job let you go?" 3 months ago." "And when did this picture look like it was taken?" She swallowed. "About 2 weeks after that." Dante exhaled slowly, the realization sharpening his features. "This isn't about you joining my household," he murmured. "Someone was watching you before that." She shook her head violently. No, that doesn't make sense. I don't know anything. I don't know anyone." He studied her, his eyes searching for something in her expression. And she suddenly realized. He was worried. For her. "Sit," he said gently. I can stand." "Elena." His tone left no room for argument. She sat. Dante crouched in front of her, placing the envelope on the desk with controlled precision. It wasn't the position of a Mafia boss, it was the position of a man trying to make himself less intimidating. "Elena," he said quietly, "I need you to think. Has anyone followed you before? Have you noticed the same car near your bus stop? Anyone asking questions about you?" "No," she whispered. "I swear no." He nodded once, slow and thoughtful. "Then whoever this is wanted me to find this photo." A dangerous calm settled over his voice. "They wanted me to take notice." Her pulse kicked painfully. Why? Why would someone do that? He didn't answer. Because the truth was obvious. Someone was using her to get to him. "Dante," she whispered. "Who is doing this?" He stood, his jaw locked tight. "There are 3 possibilities," he said. "None of them is good." He walked to his liquor cabinet and poured himself a drink. Something dark, expensive, and unquestionably necessary. He didn't drink it. He just held the glass. "Elena," he said without turning, "there's something you need to understand about my world." She hugged herself. "What?" "Innocent people get hurt first." Her breath caught. He turned toward her, and for the first time his mask cracked. Raw anger and something far more frightening than rage. Protectiveness. "This is not a coincidence," he said. Someone wants to bait me. And they chose you. She shook her head, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. I don't want to be part of any of this. I know. I just wanted to work. To take care of my mother. To have a normal life. Dante's voice dropped, low and rough. I know. She covered her face with her hands, fighting tears. A moment later she felt a touch on her wrist. Light, careful, as if he was afraid she'd break. Elena, Dante murmured. Look at me. Slowly she lowered her hands. His eyes held hers with an intensity that stole her breath. I will not let anything happen to you, he said. Not while you're under my roof. But... No, he shook his head once. This ends with me. Not with you. Why? Her voice broke. Why are you doing this? For a moment, he didn't answer. Then, because someone chose the wrong woman to threaten. Her heart slammed against her ribs. He stepped back only when his phone vibrated. Glancing at the screen, his expression hardened instantly. It's Matteo, he said. He found something. What? Dante's eyes flicked to her. Dark, razor-sharp. A second envelope. She felt the blood drain from her face. Addressed to me. No, Dante said grimly. Addressed to Sophia. Her breath stopped. But it wasn't about her. She swallowed. Then who? Dante met her gaze head-on. You. Dante didn't wait for her response. He grabbed the keys from his desk, his strides long and urgent. Elena hurried after him, her heart pounding against her ribs as if trying to break free. Dante, slow down. What did the second envelope say? We'll look together. Together. He said a word like it was inevitable. The house felt heavier as they moved through it. Dim lights, quiet hallways, the hush of a place holding its breath. When they entered the main living room, Matteo, Dante's right-hand man, was waiting. Matteo held a black envelope, thicker than the first. His expression was grim. Boss. Dante took it from him. Where did you find it? Front gate again, Matteo replied. Same handwriting. Elena's stomach twisted at the sight. This envelope seemed almost ceremonial. Like whoever sent it wanted this moment to be dramatic. Dante turned to her. You ready? She wasn't. Not even close. But she nodded. He tore the envelope open carefully. Inside was a single sheet of heavy paper. Expensive and textured. Not something a random stalker would use. Dante unfolded it. As soon as his eyes hit the page, the color drained from his face. What? Elena whispered. What does it say? He handed her the paper. Her vision blurred for a second. Then it cleared, and her breath left her body in a rush. The page wasn't a message. It was a drawing. A pencil sketch meticulously detailed. Too detailed. It showed Elena tied to a chair, blindfolded, terrified, her wrists bruised. Every detail of her face was captured with chilling accuracy. Below the drawing was a handwritten sentence. I will take what you refuse to protect. Her knees buckled. Matteo caught her before she fell. Elena, he said sharply. Breathe. She couldn't. Her throat felt locked, her chest folding in on itself. Dante was suddenly right there, pulling the drawing from her hands, ripping it cleanly in half, then ripping it again and again until the pieces fluttered onto the marble floor like dead leaves. Elena. His voice was razor-sharp. Look at me. She lifted her eyes. Tears blurred her vision. Who would do this? She choked. Why would they? You listen to me. Dante cupped her face, not forcefully, but firmly enough to bring her back into her body. This person doesn't want you. They want me. They want to scare me. They want to make me lose control. Are you losing control? She whispered. His jaw flexed. His voice lowered to something soft, lethal, and protective. I'm doing everything I can not to. Matteo cleared his throat delicately. Boss, there's more. More. Elena felt a wave of cold fear wash over her. What more? Dante snapped. Matteo hesitated, something he never did. He pulled a second paper from his jacket. This one looked older, yellowed at the edges. Not new. Not recent. Matteo, Dante warned. Don't make me ask again. Matteo handed it over silently. Dante unfolded it. His eyes widened. His breath stopped. Elena, he said, voice quiet in a way that scared her more than shouting ever could. You need to see this. Her fingers shook as she took the paper. It was a newspaper clipping. Years old. Dated. Her vision blurred, then sharpened on the headline. Local family loses daughter in mysterious abduction. Case goes cold. Elena's pulse thudded painfully. She scanned the article. A 5-year-old girl. Disappeared while walking home with her nanny. Never found. Her eyes drifted to the accompanying photo. A little girl with dark hair, big brown eyes, and a shy smile. She froze. It was her. Little Elena. The clipping slipped from her numb fingers. No, she whispered. No, this isn't. I don't remember this. Dante caught the paper, his expression unreadable, but his eyes burning with something fierce and frightening. Elena, he said slowly, this isn't a coincidence. Her voice cracked. What are you saying? He stepped toward her. Someone didn't just start watching you. His voice dropped to a near whisper. They've been watching you your entire life. She stumbled back, shaking her head, tears spilling. No, that can't be. Why would? Elena. He caught her shoulders gently but firmly. Look at me. Look. Her vision darted wildly, unfocused. I don't understand, she whispered. Dante leaned in close. His voice was steady. His presence is grounding. I'm going to find out who started this. And I'm going to end it. His fingers tightened slightly on her arms. But from this moment on, you don't step outside alone. She swallowed. Dante. You don't leave this house alone. He stepped closer. You don't breathe without me knowing where you are. Her heart hammered. She wasn't sure if it was fear stirring in her chest, or something else. Something dangerously close to trust. Dante didn't let go of her right away. His hand stayed on her shoulders, steady, grounding. Like he was afraid that if he released her, she might disappear right in front of him the way she had in that clipping years ago. Elena, he murmured. You're shaking. I'm fine, she lied. You're not. He wasn't fooled for a second. Matteo stepped back to give them space, but his eyes swept the room, tense and alert, his hand ghosting over the weapon at his side. The man wasn't calm, not even remotely, but he was trying to give his boss and Elena a moment. Dante exhaled slowly, the kind of breath a man took when he was trying not to break something, or someone, out of anger. Sit, he ordered gently. She sat. Dante crouched in front of her, bringing himself eye level. Nobody crouched in front of Elena. Nobody met her that softly, that deliberately, as if her unraveling was something he needed to catch with both hands. Elena, he said quietly, what do you remember from when you were a child? The question made her chest tighten. I don't know, she whispered. Little things. My mother's perfume. The sound of our old doorbell. A birthday cake with too many candles. But nothing like. She gestured helplessly toward the clipping Matteo still held. Nothing like that. Dante's jaw tightened, a shadow passing through his eyes. Memory can hide trauma, he murmured. Especially at that age. She flinched. Trauma. The word felt too big. Too heavy. Too sharp. So you think I was kidnapped? She asked. And what? Returned. Traded. Lost and found and just never told. Elena, Dante said gently, something happened. And whoever is behind these envelopes, he motioned to the shredded drawing on the floor. They know more than we do. Her throat tightened painfully. This doesn't make sense, she whispered. Why me? Why now? Dante rose slowly, but his voice stayed soft. That's what I'm going to find out. He moved to Matteo, speaking in low tones. Lock the perimeter. Triple rotation. No blind spots. No one gets within 50 feet of this house without my permission. Matteo nodded sharply. Done. Dante returned to her, but now his expression had shifted. The softness was still there, buried under the surface, but something colder had taken the lead. Resolve. Possession. Vengeance. "Elena," he said, "come with me." She hesitated. "Where?" He held out his hand. "To the one place in this house no one enters without my authorization." Her pulse thrummed, a mix of fear and something she didn't have a name for. "What place?" He didn't answer, just extended his hand further. "Elena." Her fingers trembled as she placed her hand in his. Warm. Strong. Steady. He pulled her gently to her feet, keeping her hand in his as he led her through the house. Past the living room, past the wide staircase, past rows of silent, watchful portraits that suddenly felt like eyes from another world. They stopped at a steel door she'd never noticed before, tucked behind a panel that looked like part of the wall. Dante pressed his palm to a scanner. A soft beep. A heavy lock clicked. The door slid open. Elena's breath hitched. It wasn't a weapons room, or a vault, or a safe. It was something far more personal. Rows of shelves. Files. Boxes. Old case documents. Photos pinned to walls. Maps with drawn lines. This was Dante's private archive. His secrets. His ghosts. He turned to her. "If someone has been watching you your whole life," he said quietly, "then this stopped being about business." "What is it about, then?" she whispered. Dante stepped closer, his voice a low, dangerous promise. "It's about you." Her breath caught. He didn't touch her this time, even though she could feel the tension of him wanting to. Instead, he walked to one of the shelves and pulled down a battered file, brown and faded with time. He placed it on the table, opening it slowly. "Elena," he said without looking up, "I haven't told you everything." Her heart stuttered. "What haven't you told me?" she whispered. Dante lifted his eyes. The truth in them was a storm. "The first time I ever saw your face wasn't the day you walked into this house." Her breath froze. "What?" He tapped the edge of the old file. "I've seen you before," he said quietly. "Years ago." She staggered back as if the ground shifted beneath her. "Dante, what are you saying?" He held her gaze. That lethal, protective, unyielding gaze. "Elena, you were never a stranger to me." She felt the world tilt, because the look in his eyes told her this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a coincidence. This was destiny. Or danger. Or both wrapped together like wire and flame. "Elena," Dante said softly, "sit. There's something you need to know." Elena sank into the chair Dante had pulled out for her, her hands trembling as she tried to steady herself. The room smelled faintly of leather and old paper, a mixture that somehow grounded her even as her mind raced. Dante placed the open file in front of her. She leaned forward, squinting at the faded photographs, handwritten notes, and old police reports. "These are all the cases I've tracked," he said softly. "Every missing person, every threat, every suspicious incident that could connect to you, since you were a child." Her pulse hammered painfully. "Why would anyone follow me for this long?" He met her gaze, unwavering. "Because you're not just someone. You've always been important. And now, whoever has been watching knows I'm involved. That makes them dangerous." Elena swallowed. "I don't even know who they are." Dante's jaw flexed. "And that's why we start here. We piece it together. You're going to help me. Every memory, every detail. Even the ones you think don't matter. Everything." She hesitated. "I'm not sure I can." "You can," he said quietly but firmly. "Because I'll be with you. Every step." Her breath caught. Not fear. Not entirely. Something else. Something dangerously close to hope. He reached for one of the files, sliding it toward her. "Start with this one. Read everything." Elena opened the document, forcing herself to focus despite the tremor in her hands. The names, dates, and places blurred together, but one line made her stop cold. "Subject observed under constant surveillance since early childhood." Her head snapped up. "That's me. It's been me. Yes. Dante confirmed. And I intend to end it. But to do that, I need you to be completely honest with me. No holding back. A shiver ran down her spine. Honesty with Dante wasn't optional. It was survival. She nodded. Okay. I'll tell you everything I can remember. Dante's eyes softened slightly, just enough that it sent a confusing warmth through her chest. Outside, the quiet of the mansion felt heavier, charged, like the calm before a storm. Dante rose and moved to the window, peering into the night. Matteo lingered near the door, silent, vigilant. First step, Dante said, voice low, is identifying the person who sent those envelopes. Whoever it is, they want me rattled. They want you scared. And I will not let either happen. Elena's fingers brushed the papers again. Her fear had not disappeared. It had evolved, transformed into a determined edge. She was going to help him. Not just because she wanted to survive, but because somehow she couldn't bear the thought of facing this terror without him. Dante turned back, eyes dark and commanding. We start tonight. You rest for an hour. Then we review everything, you know. And Elena. His tone shifted, almost tender. Stay sharp. No one leaves this house without me knowing. Her stomach fluttered as adrenaline surged. Yes. He offered her a brief, small smile. Dangerous. Protective. Electric. And just like that, she knew. Nothing in her life would ever be the same. If you're on the edge of your seat, wondering what secrets Elena will reveal from her past, make sure to hit that like button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you get the next moment it drops. Elena and Dante's story is only going to get more intense. Comment below. Who do you think has been watching Elena all these years? Your theory might just be closer than you think. The mansion had gone silent again, but it was a quiet that felt alive, charged. Elena stared at the files spread across the table, her fingers tracing dates and names as if touching them could unlock memories long buried. Do you remember anything? Dante asked, leaning against the edge of the table, watching her. His presence filled the room without a single word more. I remember flashes, she admitted, voice barely audible. Faces. Shadows. A woman in a red coat. A man with dark hair who never smiled. And sometimes I hear voices. Threatening voices. But it's all fragmented. He nodded slowly, absorbing every word. Good. That's a start. Her eyes widened as he continued. Memory is like a map. Even broken pieces can lead you back to the source. Elena shivered. The thought of retracing memories she had spent her life suppressing made her stomach twist. Tonight, Dante said, his voice dropping into that low, commanding tone. We do more than just read. We prepare. Whoever's behind this. They've underestimated me. He moved toward the shelves, selecting a small, sleek case. Elena's pulse spiked as he opened it to reveal tools she didn't recognize. High-tech surveillance equipment, encrypted drives, and documents stamped with names she didn't know. This is how we fight back, he said, almost casually, though every word carried steel. You'll help me trace them. We'll know their moves before they even think to act. Elena's fingers hovered over the equipment. I don't know if I can do this. Dante's eyes softened. Just a fraction enough to make her heart lurch. You can. And you will. Because I'm not letting anything happen to you. Not now. Not ever. The words wrapped around her chest, tight and electrifying. She had never felt anyone speak like that to her before. Like her life was the only thing that mattered. Start here, he said, sliding a folder toward her. Every detail you remember. Every anomaly. We trace it. Piece by piece. Elena bent over the papers, adrenaline replacing fear with a fierce focus. Each scribbled note, each half-forgotten memory, felt like a lifeline, and with Dante's presence beside her, she felt she could grasp it. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the storm brewing within the mansion. But Elena knew now, nothing would be the same. Whoever had haunted her life had just met their match. Dante stepped close, his hand brushing against hers as he leaned over the table. The contact was fleeting, almost accidental, but the heat it left behind was undeniable. "Stay sharp," he murmured, voice low. "I won't let them touch you." Elena swallowed, trying to focus on the files in front of her, but her pulse betrayed her, racing at the nearness of him. Fear, desire, trust, all tangled together in a dangerous knot. If you're hooked on the mystery of Elena's past and Dante's protective obsession, smash that like button. The next twist is about to turn up the heat and danger. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to follow their hunt in real time. Every clue they uncover brings them closer to the truth, and closer together. Comment below with your theory. Who do you think has been watching Elena since she was a child? The answer might shock you in the twist. The mansion felt alive with a quiet, electric tension as night deepened. Elena's eyes were glued to the files in front of her, but every so often she felt Dante's presence behind her, the subtle shift of his weight, and the soft scrape of his boots against the floor. "Here," he said, tapping a photograph pinned to a board. "Do you recognize this man?" Elena leaned closer. His face was sharp and unfamiliar, but something about the eyes made her shiver. I think so. Maybe from a dream. Or a memory I can't reach." "That's enough for now," Dante said, voice low and commanding. "Sometimes memory comes in pieces. You give me the pieces, and I'll make the puzzle whole." Her pulse raced. Every time he spoke, it was as if he stirred something inside her. Fear, yes, but also a dangerous pull she didn't want to name. "Tonight," he continued, eyes scanning the room, "we trace these leads. If anyone tries to approach this house, I want to know before they even get close. Matteo has already doubled the perimeter, but this is bigger than just protection." Elena nodded, pushing down the flutter of nerves. She was learning to trust him. Not just his strength, but his mind. Every calculated movement, every careful word, made her feel both safer and more exposed. Dante crouched beside her, pointing at a series of dates and locations on the board. "Look here. Patterns. Recurring times, recurring places. Whoever sent those drawings. They always signal before they strike. If we can predict their next move, we take control." Her fingers traced the lines connecting the dots. "I think I see it. Sort of. But it's like they're always one step ahead. Then we make them 2 steps behind," he said quietly, leaning just a little closer. The heat of his presence made her pulse spike. "And Elena." "Yes. You don't leave this room tonight without me knowing exactly what you're doing, every step. Not for fear. For safety. And for me." Her stomach tightened. "For him." "Yes," she whispered, almost breathless. The hours passed in a blur of files, photographs, and whispered strategies. Matteo occasionally checked in, reporting small anomalies outside. Cars that lingered too long, shadows that seemed out of place, but inside the mansion was a fortress. A bubble where Elena and Dante navigated the past, present, and danger together. At one point, Dante brushed a strand of hair from her face, an absent-minded gesture, soft but electric. She didn't pull back. She couldn't. He caught her gaze and held it, words unnecessary. The danger outside only made the closeness inside feel sharper, more urgent. Finally, Dante straightened, rubbing his jaw. "Rest now. Tomorrow we go further. We trace them. We end this." Elena nodded, exhaustion and adrenaline fighting for dominance. She felt safe. And yet, the fear was still there, always there, like a shadow brushing against the edges of her mind. But with Dante beside her, it felt survivable. If you're hooked on the tension between Elena and Dante and the mystery surrounding her past, like this video, the next brings answers and even bigger twists. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the moment Elena and Dante confront the person who's haunted her entire life. The stakes are higher than ever. Comment below with your theory. Who do you think is really behind Elena's past? Could it be someone closer than we expect? The first light of dawn seeped through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the mansion's polished floors. Elena hadn't slept, not really, but she felt a strange clarity, a sharpness in her mind she hadn't known before. Dante stood by the window, arms crossed, eyes scanning the horizon. He looked every bit the predator she had come to rely on, the man who could both protect and terrify her. "Tonight," he said without turning, "we confront them. Whoever has been watching you, whoever sent those drawings, they're not expecting this." Elena swallowed hard. Fear curled in her stomach, but beneath it was something darker, more thrilling: trust. Not blind trust, but a trust forged in fire and threat, the kind that made her pulse race whenever he was near. "I'm ready," she whispered, though the truth was that her hands shook slightly as she picked up the files, ready to go over them one last time. He finally turned, eyes locking onto hers. "Good. Because hesitation gets people hurt. And I'm not letting that happen to you. Not now, not ever." The mansion buzzed with quiet energy as Matteo secured the outer perimeter. Every entrance, every blind spot, and every camera was checked and double-checked. Outside, the city moved, unaware of the storm about to break in this private fortress. Elena followed Dante down the hall to a small, windowless room he called the Operations Center. Screens flickered to life, showing maps, surveillance feeds, and photographs of faces both familiar and not. "See these patterns?" he said, pointing to one of the screens. "They've struck twice in the past month, always near your usual haunts. They're confident, arrogant. But arrogant people make mistakes." Elena leaned in, tracing the lines with her finger. "I think I see it. There's a route they repeat, almost like they want to be noticed." Dante's lips curved slightly, a dangerous smile. "Exactly. And we'll use that. We lure them in and we take control." Her stomach tightened, not just from fear, but from the awareness of him behind her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. She couldn't help but notice the faint scent of his cologne, sharp and clean, mixed with the faint leather of the chair. "Stay focused," he murmured, his voice low, almost intimate. "We finish this tonight. No distractions. No mistakes." "Yes," she breathed, forcing herself to concentrate on the screens. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by whispered updates from Matteo. Then, finally, a movement appeared on the feed. Someone near the mansion's gate, cautious, deliberate. "They're here," Dante said, voice calm but lethal. "And Elena." Her heart skipped. "I need you to trust me. Completely." She nodded, the knot of fear and anticipation tightening in her chest. "I trust you." He stepped closer, brushing her hand as he pointed to a monitor. "Good. Because once we step outside this room, nothing will ever be the same." Outside, the shadow of their adversary moved closer, unaware that the hunter and the hunted had just become one, and that Elena, the girl who had been watching her entire life, was finally ready to fight back. If you're on the edge of your seat waiting to see who shows up at the mansion, like this video now, the confrontation is about to explode. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to see Elena and Dante face the threat head-on in the next episode. The tension and their connection will reach a whole new level. Comment below, who do you think is at the gate? Are they friend or foe? Your guess might surprise you in the next twist. The mansion's night air carried a tension that made Elena's skin prickle. Every shadow outside felt like a threat, every rustle amplified in the silence. She followed Dante down the main hall, moving as if in a trance, her heart hammering, not just from fear, but from the electric nearness of him. At the front gate, Matteo stood ready, silent and deadly, eyes scanning the perimeter. Dante's hand brushed briefly against Elena's back, a grounding touch, and she shivered, not from cold. "Remember," he said, voice low and lethal. "Stay behind me. Watch, learn, and trust me." She nodded. Her pulse raced. Every instinct screamed to run, but every part of her also knew she couldn't. Not with him here. They reached the gate, and Elena's breath caught. A figure moved just beyond the lights, a silhouette in the darkness, deliberate, cautious. Dante stepped forward, calm, commanding, his presence radiating authority. "You've been very patient," he said, his voice cutting through the night. "But patience ends tonight." The figure froze. A hand lifted slightly, revealing a face Elena had never seen. But there was something in the posture, in the way they held themselves, that made her stomach knot. "You've been watching her," Dante said, voice sharp. "Studying her life." "Why?" The figure tilted their head, almost mocking. but the cold edge in Dante's tone made them hesitate. "You're too late," the voice said finally, low and controlled. "The girl, the one you protect so fiercely, she's already mine." Elena's stomach lurched, and she instinctively stepped forward. But Dante's hand caught her wrist, firm, pulling her back. "Not yet," he said softly, almost a whisper but full of authority. The figure moved suddenly, faster than Elena expected. But Dante moved faster. In a blur of calculated precision, he intercepted them, blocking their path, his body a shield. "Elena," he said, his breath brushing her ear, "stay behind me. Watch. Learn. Remember. And trust me." The figure faltered, eyes darting between Dante and Elena. For a moment, the world hung suspended. Breathless, charged, dangerous. Then, as if realizing the fight wasn't theirs to win, the figure retreated, melting back into the shadows. Dante's jaw tightened. "This isn't over," he growled. His hands dropped to Elena's shoulders, grounding her. "But tonight you survived. Together." Elena's chest heaved. Fear, relief, and something else she couldn't name twisted inside her. She wanted to speak, to say something. Anything, but Dante's gaze silenced her, deep, commanding, and protective. "You're safe now," he murmured, voice low and intimate. "And I won't let them hurt you. Not ever." Her fingers found his hand, almost unconsciously. The warmth, the strength, the promise of protection, it was intoxicating. She swallowed, trying to steady her racing thoughts. I trust you," she whispered. He held her gaze, and for the first time, the storm outside felt distant. Inside, the mansion was theirs, a fortress against the world, a place where danger and desire collided, and where Elena finally understood what it meant to be truly protected. And wanted. If your heart is racing like Elena's, smash that like button. The stakes are higher than ever, and the danger isn't over. Subscribe and hit the bell to follow every moment of Elena and Dante's hunt. Trust, fear, and desire all collide in the next twist. Comment below. What would you do if someone had been watching your entire life? Can you imagine the fear, and the fight to survive? The mansion had settled into a tense, expectant silence. Elena stood beside Dante, her fingers brushing the edge of the table where the surveillance feeds and files lay. Every muscle in her body hummed with adrenaline, her mind racing to keep up with the man who had become both her protector and her anchor. "They'll try again," Dante said quietly, eyes scanning the monitors. "And next time they won't hesitate." Elena swallowed hard. "I'm ready," she whispered, though she wasn't entirely sure if she meant the fight outside, or the storm of feelings building inside her whenever he was near. Dante's hand found hers briefly, a grounding pressure that made her pulse spike. "Good," he said, voice low, almost a rumble. "Because when they come, we end this. Together." The first shadow appeared at the perimeter, then another. More deliberate, more coordinated. Dante didn't flinch. Every move was precise, controlled, and lethal. "Stay here," he ordered, though his hand lingered over hers for a heartbeat longer than necessary. "Watch. Learn. Trust me." Elena did as he said, though her chest tightened at the thought of him facing the danger alone. But then, like a predator sensing its prey, Dante moved, intercepting, confronting, and dismantling their attack with calculated precision. Hours seemed to compress into minutes as the night unfolded. Every shadow and every subtle movement outside the mansion was accounted for, and every threat was neutralized before it could reach them. And then, in a quiet lull, Dante turned to her, eyes fierce and unreadable. "Elena," he said softly, "there's something you need to know. About your past. About why this has always been about you." Her breath caught. What is it?" He held her gaze, steady, unflinching. "The person who's haunted you. It's not a stranger. It's someone closer than you think. Someone who wanted control, not just over you, but over me too." Elena's stomach lurched. "No, it can't be." "It is," he said, his voice low, lethal, and protective. "And I've traced them. I know who orchestrated every step of this nightmare." Her hands trembled. "And what now?" "Now," Dante said, stepping close, his presence overwhelming. "We end it. Tonight. Together. He reached for her hand, this time deliberately, holding it firmly in his own. The warmth, the strength, the promise of protection. It was a tether against the storm surrounding them. Elena looked up at him, fear and trust mingling in her gaze. Together, she whispered. Yes, he replied, voice soft but filled with deadly resolve. Together. No one touches you. No one threatens you. Not while I'm here. The night air outside seemed to hold its breath as they prepared to face the final threat. And for the first time since she had discovered the truth about her past, Elena didn't feel afraid, not entirely. Because she wasn't alone. She had Dante. And he would not let anything happen to her. The danger was real. The tension was unbearable. And the pull between them was undeniable. But one thing was certain. After tonight, nothing would ever be the same. If you're on the edge of your seat, like this video now, Elena and Dante are about to confront the ultimate threat, and the outcome will shock you. Subscribe and turn on notifications to see the showdown and the secrets revealed in real time. You won't want to miss a single moment. Comment below, who do you think Elena will face tonight, and how will Dante protect her? Your theory might just be closer than you think. The first rays of sunlight spilled over the mansion, softening the shadows that had haunted it for so long. Elena stood on the balcony, the cool morning air brushing her face, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she felt something close to peace. Dante joined her silently, his presence familiar and grounding. He didn't need to speak. Just being near him was enough. You're quiet, he said finally, voice low, almost teasing. Elena turned, a small smile tugging at her lips. I'm processing, she admitted. Everything. Last night, the threats. You. He reached for her hand, entwining their fingers naturally, effortlessly. I did what I had to, he said softly. But so did you. You faced your past. You didn't run. That matters. Her gaze dropped to their linked hands. I never realized how much I needed someone to protect me. But more than that, she lifted her eyes to meet his. How much I wanted someone to trust completely. And I trust you, Dante. With everything. His jaw flexed, a flash of something fierce passing through his eyes, softened immediately by warmth. And I'll never stop protecting you. Not now. Not ever. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the city below waking, oblivious to the battles fought and won within these walls. Elena felt a thrill of safety mixed with something dangerously electric. Desire, trust, and the knowledge that she was no longer alone. Can I ask you something? She whispered. Anything, he replied, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. After all of this, what now? The threats, the past, the people who've been watching me. Dante's lips curved into a rare, soft smile. Now, he said. Now we live. And we keep each other safe. Always. And for the rest. His eyes darkened, intense and intimate. We decide together. No one else controls our story but us. Elena's breath caught. Together, she repeated, and this time it wasn't just a whisper of hope, it was a promise. He leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his thumb tracing her cheek gently. Together, he confirmed. For the first time in her life, Elena felt the world could be faced. Not as a victim, not as a target, but as someone loved, protected, and powerful in her own right. And as Dante pulled her into a quiet embrace, she realized that the past might have shaped her, but the future was theirs. The mansion, the city, the world outside, it could wait. For now they had each other. And that was enough. If you've been on the edge of your seat through Elena and Dante's story, hit like to celebrate their triumph over danger and the discovery of trust and love. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another thrilling twist. There's more danger, more secrets, and more romance waiting in every story we share. Comment below, what moment in Elena and Dante's journey shocked you the most? Your favorite scene could inspire our next story twist. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazy and intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out.